You know, going through Breath of the Wild, there are a lot of things that are, saying, unrealistic. The hang glider is way too small to work that way. Carrying a sword in the thunderstorm won't make you that much of a lightning rod. And how in the world still in medieval stasis after 10,000 years? One thing that last statement stood out to me. Breath of the Wild is set 10,000 years after Skyward Sword. It's canon that all the Zeldas are direct descendants of each other in the royal line. They've continuously ruled Hyrule during this time. The question is, how? The longest dynasty we know of is the Bulgarian House of Dulo, which ruled for 2,890 years. The second longest being the Japanese Emperor, ruling for 2,669 years. However, both of these are questionable. The Japanese emperor was reduced to a ceremonial pawn by the shogun from 1185 all the way through 1868, and the Dulo were conquered repeatedly by Rome during this time. Even allowing this, only 6 dynasties in human history have lasted 1,000 years. Most dynasties aren't that lucky. The Qin dynasty of China lasted 15 years. Even the dynasty of the Caesars lasted only 5 emperors, 6 if you count Julius. Sooner or later, and typically sooner, an incompetent comes to the throne and gets himself overthrown. To compare, the reign of the Zeldas has gone on for 10,000 years. Why? Well, it could be that this is literally divine rule, with the Zeldas being the incarnation of the goddess Hylia. However, that's hardly saved our own dynasties in the past. The answer's a bit more down to earth. Take a look at Zelda's prayer this spring. This one little flashback explains everything. Fact 1. Her grandmother was royal, and her mother was royal. Both of them had the royal power. So, if the grandmother and the mother are both the royal line, how do we even have a king? Fact 2. The Zeldas devote their life to prayer and nurturing their divine powers, not ruling from the throne. In the same scene, Zelda complains that all she does is pray, trying to unlock her magic. Roam never actually taught her how to rule a kingdom, despite her being 17 and he's not exactly young. The answer? The Zeldas aren't ruling. The simplest explanation is that the eldest princess is the heir, but either she, or her parents, pick the most qualified person for each Zelda to marry and be king. This isn't exactly a role model for feminine power and independence. That's hardly unprecedented. It doesn't fit our current nomenclature where the queen's husband is the prince consort, but this is a fantasy between the bird people, the fish people, the rock people, the 8-foot-tall Amazons, and the pointy-eared protagonists. I'd say having different rules of inheritance is understandable. However, this is actually the key to longevity of Hyrule. I'm going to use Rome as an example. The first dynasty started with Julius Caesar, who was emperor in all but name. Then Augustus, Tiberius, Caligula, Claudius, and Nero. Out of these successors, 3 were adopted and 2 inherited the throne. Caligula was adopted as a child, which is why I'm including him here. Augustus, Tiberius, and Claudius were chosen for their worth, were good rulers. Caligula and Nero were chosen for their parentage, our famed screw-ups 2,000 years later. This pattern continues through most of Roman history, indeed much of the world. As Machiavelli explained, the monarch takes the throne by force, virtue, or luck. These founders tend to be competent rulers at the least. However, good rulers are not necessarily good parents. Their children are sometimes good and sometimes very, very bad. If you have a Queen Elizabeth, you're golden. However, if you have an Emperor Commodus, who's known for his dedicated cosplay of Hercules, things go south. So, what does this mean for the series? Well, we know that most of the Links don't end up wed to their respective Zelda. However, when they do, you end up with King Link wearing a slightly less epic crown than his wife, and his daughter, Zelda the Very Large Numbereth, will end up selecting the next king of Hyrule. So, that's my theory. If you agree, please leave a comment down below. If you think I'm an idiot, please feel free to say so in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'll see you all next time.